Colorism has been an aspect of Black America for centuries, and the effects of it still remain today. Generally, the conversation goes like this. A dark-skinned man or a Black man says something, rejects them, doesn't give them attention, calls them names, and it's all because the color of their skin. And it's not just colorism, it's also featurism and texturism, which essentially refers to how Black women may feel that they are judged or they are perceived as less attractive because their features and their hair do not align with European aesthetics. These talking points are very, very popular, and they continue to remain popular as different Black actors or celebrities or just successful Black men are found to be with non-Black women or light-skinned Black women. It gives women another reason to revisit their personal trauma or their experiences with colorism. We really do have Black men out there who do not like Black women in particular. That does exist. However, what is rarely talked about is how Black women themselves engage in colorism. And what we are finding more and more is that not only are Black women also just as guilty as practicing colorism, in some ways they perpetuate it worse. Recently, Johnathan Majors did a photo shoot with Ebony magazine, and while he did have a lot of support and got a lot of positive feedback, y'all, the Ku Klux Quiches were out of control. Y'all should have seen the comments. People saying that he had a civil rights face, others saying that his looks would only pass in slavery, some saying he looked like a slave, like just really self-hating things. And here's the incredibly hypocritical part about this entire thing. There is no way that if the roles were reversed, any of that language would have been justified. There would have been World War III online. There was a dark-skinned female actress or just a Black woman in general who had strong features, and there were men saying that she had a civil rights face and saying that her looks would only pass in slavery. Y'all, that man would have been canceled. He would have been absolutely canceled. He may have lost his job. I mean, there would have been World War III. But let the comments come the other way and nobody really cares. Just people look at it as just that fringe conversation or just a woman's preference. But those comments to me showed me so much, because when we're having these conversations about colorism, featurism, texturism, they don't just come from the men. And in many instances, they come from women. Honestly, the ones that I've seen go after women's features the most are other women. The ones I see talking about hair texture, noses, skin tones, throwing names, throwing shots are other women. I'm not saying men don't do it, but other women usually go in hard when it comes to a woman's looks. So it's hard for me to believe that we have this culture where Black men and women have been impacted, and yet somehow Black men only harbor self-hatred and Black women are free from that. Like, it's hard for me to believe that. And the evidence shows that it's actually not true. The evidence shows that it is women putting on Brazilian hair in their head. It is women consistently wearing fake hair of other women, of other races, to try to blend into mainstream society. It is women sometimes. It is us who lighten our skin. This is women doing this. So easy to want to point the finger at men when they come marrying women outside of the race, etc., etc. These kinds of situations continue to remind us that women are not innocent. And this unwillingness to acknowledge the truth, and this unwillingness to acknowledge what is obviously there and at work in Black female psychology only hurts us in the long run. It only hurts us in the long run, because if we cannot acknowledge that this is impacting some of us, I'm not saying all, but it's impacting some of us, and that psychology still exists, then we continue to perpetuate that same toxic belief system and that same toxic behavior. I want to turn your attention to a report that I actually reviewed a while back, and this to me really solidifies how we as Black women have internalized colorism, featurism, texturism, which is why I think we spend so much time talking about it, because it's something that we feel internally. This book, entitled The Dating Divide: Race and Desire in the Era of Online Dating, speaks to how people choose their romantic partners. And what it did was look at romantic preferences across different races and across different genders. And what it found all across the board was that while men of all races, including black men, were race loyal and responded first to their own race of women. Women, on the other hand, responded first to white men and then secondly to their own race of men. This is women all across the board, including black women. Take a listen.
So what we found is that race is the deal breaker of all characteristics. It operates more strongly than education, physical characteristics. It is the deal breaker. And, you know, one of the things that we often found, which I thought was interesting in interviewing, especially many of the white men, is this aggrieved feeling that they were disadvantaged in online dating and that they were being ignored. And yet in our quantitative analysis, we find that white men are the most desired of all men. And this has been shown in many other platforms too. So this is not specific to the platform that we're looking at. Our quantitative analysis showed that almost all women all women of all races and almost all gay men, actually black men did not show this, that their preference was strongest for white men. Now this preference for white men was statistically significant for other races, but especially strong for white women. But I found it really interesting that you know, women and gay men of other races would respond first to white men and only secondly to men of their same race. So on the other hand, when it comes to preferences for women, so if we look at the ways in which straight men and lesbians, who their preferences are, who they interact with, etc., we found that unlike for men, whiteness was not the defining characteristic per se, but the defining pattern was for same race preferences, so contacting others of the same race. Men of all race and lesbians of color do not seem to have a first preference for white women, but their same ethnic group. And unlike straight women and gay men, they're also more open to people from all racial groups, and this is really important, except black daters. So we document a persistent and specific anti-blackness that operates among the sexual preferences of white, Asian, Hispanic, multiracial, straight men, and gay women. The association with white masculinity is not just associated with sexual allure, but it also symbolizes economic and cultural power in a way that femininity generally does not, right? And, you know, in our interviews, while there is plenty of resistance to this among individuals, we also see that this sort of valorization of white masculinity is really something that's been internalized and reproduced by marginalized groups as well. So, you know, that's a sobering finding.
This information flies in the face of arguments that black men are the most colorist, featurist, and texturist men out there. It literally flies in the face of it. And if anything, it suggests that actually black women are the ones really practicing colorism, featurism, and texturism. Not based upon my own opinion, but based upon what the evidence from these sociologists who professionally study human behavior has shown us. This really presents an opportunity for women to be honest with themselves, for women to start to face the truths about what they feel inside. Again, I'm not saying that there are black men out there who don't have self-hating ideas. There obviously are, that obviously exist. All I am saying is that it also impacts the women, and an inability to address that and an inability to engage with that painful truth will only hurt us in the long run. We may project this on other men, project this on black men, because we are mad that we're maybe not getting the options with the white men that we want, or we may just be super sensitive and just never really be at peace with who we are. We may never like the way we are, but however it may be, if you do not acknowledge this aspect of who you are, then there is no way that you can really, truly, and fully be empowered. This is an opportunity for women to, again, be self-reflective and say, wow, maybe I'm judging these men because I'm actually doing the same thing. Maybe I'm projecting. But of course, that would require a ton of self-reflection, and that would also mean that there would have to be a level of acceptance that you also are probably guilty of the very same things you are judging men for. In an era where women feel comfortable saying that a man has a civil rights face, In an era where a handsome, ruggedly black male actor can be compared to the looks of a slave, we cannot look at these examples and say that black women also do not harbor ideas of colorism, featurism, or texturism. We cannot say that honestly. What do you think? Do you agree or do you disagree? Let me know. Leave your questions, comments, concerns in the comment section below. Thank you so much for listening if you've gotten this far. And we'll talk later. Bye.